Okay, should be up and running. Right, welcome back. First Nwo dev video for a while. Mojang have finally released a snapshot that's actually worth doing something with. So, well, that was a few days ago now that they released that. I think something like that, give or take. So I spent some time yesterday actually working on some stuff. I'd go through all the changelog and updates and stuff that they've done, but to be honest, there's a load of it on there, and honestly, most of it won't mean a great deal. What matters to us is we have working scoreboards. We've got some extra functionality in the execute command, which quite a lot of our stuff is going to be quite dependent on, so we need to spend a little, well, I need to spend a little bit of time fiddling with that, working out what we can do with it, and basically ways to refine it. And the one bit that I'm actually, it's a little bit sad, I'm a little bit excited about, they finally updated the teleport command. We can now teleport through dimensions. Doesn't sound like a big thing, but honestly, you'd be surprised. Doesn't make a huge difference for the main like gameplay map, but when it comes to doing the mini games and stuff like that, that's gonna make quite a difference. We can do a lot more stuff with it now, so that should be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to having a bit of a play with that. But so first thing that we need to do for preparation on the 1.13 pre-release, if you've watched any of the other videos that I posted before, basically when 1.13 comes, virtually every bit of code that we've got written for 1.112 will stop working, or just won't work at all in one way or another. Basically everything has to be rewritten. For those of you that don't know how much stuff there is, I think from memory there was something like about 10,000 lines of code in command blocks, one way or another, that currently run the world that you guys play at the moment. You don't see any of it because it's all hidden away behind the scenes, basically. It took us quite a while to put it all together. A lot of that, I mean, well, obviously there's a lot of that. So we've got quite a lot to do. Stuff that you don't really realise, but things like the system that controls whether you're in PvP team or no PvP team. Some of you like it, some of you don't, whatever. Unfortunately, we have to cater for everybody. But it's actually quite a lot to that. There's nearly 50 command blocks that control that system. And without it, it's basically a free-for-all. So preparing for the new map, we've got to get core things like that done. So I spent some time yesterday working on that. Just quickly, you'll notice in the bottom corner where it says I'm on the 1.112. I'm actually going to hop on the server quickly because I need some information out of the command blocks there. Who's on? Yeah, okay. So up until now, we haven't really shown anybody the command block room. So bit of a behind-the-scenes peek. You'll get to see just how much stuff there is actually going on. Won't go into all the code because you don't need to worry about that, and it's going to be largely pointless anyway. But it'll give you an idea. So get ready for a sneak peek, basically. Where are we? Don't even know where I am at the moment. Can't even type. Let's do. That should get me roughly where I want to be. Okay, so here I am, the command block room. This is everything that runs to keep the game running for you guys. So all your trigger commands, your custom achievements. This bit here is the bit that we're interested in. So this line of CBs that I'm flying over at the moment is effectively the first set of sort of functions that that do the testing for the PvP zones, and then all of these along here are what happens if a player gets detected. Excuse the clicking, that's the core clock running. So you can see all the way up from zone 0. Do I know FNAF? I had no idea. So up to zone 12, and then actually W1 through to W4 are also zones as well. So you've got 16 zones. There's what, something like about 50-ish command blocks. I'm sure somebody quicker at maths will correct me, but yeah. So we've got to replace basically all of those and all of the code that's in it for new stuff. Excuse me. Now I need to grab some coordinates out of these command blocks, so I'm actually gonna stop recording for the moment, just while I grab those and dump them into a text file, because I need that for the updates that I'm working on at the moment. But I will be back in a moment and we will carry on. Okay, and we're back. So I got what I needed. You can see we're off at the server now. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice in the bottom left-hand corner we've got 18W02A. So we're on the new snapshot now. For the moment, going to be doing this on a single-player world. Haven't had a chance to get our private dev server updated yet. And at the same time, Mojang tend to be a little bit hit and miss with their server updates sometimes. So stuff that will work on the single player worlds won't necessarily work on the server one just yet. Given how many updates they've made and bug fixes and stuff that they've done, I'm kind of hedging my bets. I think the pre-release is going to be fairly soon. Obviously we need to be in a situation that we've got working code, so we will get to push it onto the dev server and try it, but for the moment, at least on the single player, I know stuff's working and I can try it. So so let's fire this up for a minute. So you saw how many command blocks I was just looking at. So I did a bit of a play yesterday, working on setting up a new system. So what we're looking at here, excuse me, because I'm dying here, is basically a small version, just for doing the development stuff on. So hidden in there we've got a basic hopper clock. X marks the spot being our 0 point for spawn. So this first green square here, he says, failing miserably to run an outline, but there you go. That first green square there represents spawn. The red square represents the PvP area. The green square represents the no PvP area. The black one is what we're going to call no man's land for the moment, and then the blue bit is the system area that you guys you do get to go into it, but in a controlled manner. That's where we put all of the mini games and stuff like the bank and the shops and all that sort of stuff. We farm it out to there. So we do that intentionally for a couple of reasons. One, because it gives us lots of space to be able to work around. Two, it means that things like the banks and the shops and that, you don't always use them a lot, or the mini games even don't get used a lot. So when they're sort of tucked nice and far out of the way, the chunks will unload. It frees up resource for the server for while you guys are running around in PvP or no PvP area. The no man's land bit, the black bit, you don't actually really see that. That's just basically a warning border to trigger the message that if you get too close to the system area, you're going to get returned back to spawn. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will also notice that where I said the red square is PvP and the green square is no PvP, actually, what you're really looking at is 4 rectangles to make up each one. That's basically because that's how we have to work out the coordinate sections to be able to identify specific areas and target them so that we can pick you up. Because if I assigned from there all the way across to there, basically that bit in the middle would be overwritten. And you'll notice that I'm getting detected moving from zone to zone. If I go there, I get the warning. If I carry on, I get returned to spawn. And yes, I did put a childish message in that said you get returned, you smell bad. So here's the cool bit. All of those command blocks that you saw on the previous bit have been replaced with that one. That one calls a function. I did actually record a load of stuff yesterday because I was playing around with this. I don't know, probably about 5 or 6 hours in the end, because we've not really worked with functions before. They were available in 1.12, but they were a bit limited, in my opinion, for what they could do. So yeah, we never really worked with them, and to be honest, they've changed quite a lot of it anyway for 1.13, so a lot of it doesn't even really carry over anyway. So yeah, having spent like 5 or 6 hours yesterday working, writing the code for that, basically I ended up with like 21.5 gigs worth of video footage, which I thought, you know, I'll go through it, I'll edit it down, you know, make an interesting development type video for yeah. I watched some of it back and honestly even I was bored. And yeah, you know, I kind of had a vested interest in it because it's, you know, the shit I'm supposed to be doing. So I decided to bin all of that instead, and just do another short video instead. So yeah, what we got is this lot. Oh, and yeah, the other bit, kind of didn't realise until it was too late. Having up my recording settings to 1080p, and you know, I've got a new rig running, and you know, you can see. I mean, alright, the graphics card needs updating, but other than that, it's a fairly reasonable spec. It's doing all right. Yeah, dumbass forgot to put the resource pack on. So what you're looking at now, being, you know, pretty chroma hills and all the rest of it. Yeah, no, 1080p in the standard resource pack, so it still looked like potato. So yeah, we'll basically bin all of that, and we'll do this again. So that one command block. That one command block replaces all of the ones that you just saw. And what I'll do, if I pull up this window and fire this up, so you should be able to see. So that very first line of command blocks that I pointed out, that I said, you know, that did all of the testing, that is the code that's out of those. If you look at line 1, for example, the key bit is the bit that I'm highlighting there. That's the bit that defines your first zone, which is actually the spawn zone. Where is it? Yeah, maybe. I think. Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, I'll double check that anyway. But So it's those coordinates anyway that we're interested in, and then you've got your scoreboard values and stuff. So that's the first line of command blocks that I flew over. Depending on whether or not those requirements are met, then it triggers the ones that are branched off at the side of it. So all of those, plus the ones that are branched off the side, have now been replaced with this. This is well, you can see from the text box at the top, it's version 1. Honestly, I'm not entirely happy with this. It's a bit heavy-handed. I think we're probably going to see at least version 2, if not version 3 of this. At the moment it works, which is all well and good, but the way it does it, it's a bit clumsy. It's not really very elegant, and the result of it is there's a lot more commands running than I really want. In the single player test world, it's fine. There's only me, for starters, and you know, to be fair, I've got a fairly decent processor to throw at it. It's not really an issue. But with that transferred onto a server, I mean, our server specs are pretty reasonable by most people's standards for a Minecraft server. But even still, with 15, 20 people all online at the same time, this basically results in about 45 commands being run, all within one tick, and that's constantly running on the main clock. Now, we could put it as a game rule and have it running even faster, so you could have it running every tick. It doesn't really need to be that way. We normally run a half-second clock on the main server, just to make sure that things run reasonably quickly and smoothly responsive. So these 46 commands would end up being run, or 45 commands, whatever it is, basically once every half a second. So what I want to try and do is refine that down, to reduce the number of active commands, which I think I can do where I've got this, like if you look at line 16, that is determining whether or not you meet the requirements, being in spawn or not. So the first part of it here, in these brackets, which have hopefully gone yellow, yeah. So your first 3 coordinates set the start point of the area. The second 3 set the range of it. So you don't do a start and a finish. What you do is a start and then tell it, like, go 10 blocks that way, or 100 blocks, or whatever. So -5 with a range of 10 will take us to +5. Make sense? Yeah. So if you're within those coordinates, you're in the PvP team, and you have a scoreboard value on PvP of 1, then it should carry out that. Now, as it stands at the moment, because of how that command is structured, when it runs it, it will evaluate the entire command. I think if I can change this into an if statement, essentially I can control, basically if the first part isn't met, then it doesn't run the rest, so it will reduce the number of times it will run. It sounds a bit anal, but if I can reduce the number of times things are run, basically it reduces the amount of load that's put on the server. So I've got a bit of tweaking to do, but key thing is, at this point, first draft, we've got something that's up, working, and worst case scenario I can put on the server and we'll you know, do what we need it to do. So let's take you through a couple of bits. I've already explained the coordinates. Team is self-explanatory. You've got PvP and no PvP. In actual fact, there are more teams. You also have a separate set of teams for donators. Although, to be honest, these days, fairly low priority because you lot are all tight and you don't help. Nah, I'm only joking. Donations are great and hugely appreciated, but that's not why we do it, so that's cool. Yeah, so anyway, so there's actually there's two sets of teams for donators, for PvP and no PvP. Then there is also technically a staff team as well. The scores section here that's pointing to the PvP. PvP is a scoreboard value. That is possibly going to fall into the 3rd revision because I'm looking at toying with the idea of trying to use tags instead of scoreboard values. Again, behind the scenes, when you evaluate scoreboards, the entire set of scoreboards is processed basically. With tags, it's specific to the players that are online at the time, so again it can reduce the number of operations that the server needs to do behind the scenes, in theory. Whether it makes a difference in actual application or not, it's a new it's going to be a new release, so until we try it and see how it runs, we just won't know basically. So all we can do is try it both ways, see what we get as performance loads, and go from there really. So at the moment that is a scoreboard value. It's basically a binary value. It's a 0 or a 1. So you can see where hopefully my cursor is showing on the screen, but if it's not, at the end of the highlighted bit where it says scores equals PvP equals 1, so it's basically saying if it's a true value of 1, then we're going to do this command, which changes the scoreboard of the player in that area, in that team, with that scoreboard value, and we're going to change it to a 0. At the point that we change it to a 0, we're doing that intentionally because further down the bottom here, all the way down the bottom, our sub-function calls. Within function commands, you can call other function commands as well. So we've got a change to no PvP, which if I switch windows is a very simple one. It's only 2 lines. The message one will actually be changed to a tell raw to make it pretty, but I haven't fiddled with that yet because this is only test stuff. The whole point of changing it to the 0 is it means that we can target anybody in a PvP team with a value of 0 and change them to a no PvP team. And the reason we're doing it that way is if I go back for a minute and we go back up to here, we've got the spawn section, but we also have 4 other zones for no PvP. Now I could change each one individually, but that means I've got to do another set of lines of code for each one of those. Or, doing it the way I'm doing it, I only have to do just that one instance. Make sense? I hope so. Makes sense to me. So, we've got spawn, we've got PvP, we've got no PvP, we've got our no man's land bit, which is the black section. No man's land reset. Basically, if I minimize this for a minute, doink, so you can actually see the window. There we go. So PvP, no PvP. When we go into no man's land, we get that warning. Yeah. Now, the reset is because if I don't do the reset, you get that message spam on the screen all the time. It's kind of useful in a way, but at the same time it's also ridiculously annoying and unnecessary. So currently the way it works is when you're in here, if I show you the scoreboard, so I've got a warning state of 0 down there in the bottom corner just above where it says PvP. So if I go across into here now, it's saying that it's a 2, right? Now the way that works is when I first cross over, that actually changes to 1. When it's a value of 1, that's what I'm using. If I switch this window back on for a minute, you should be able to see, hopefully. No, show me. There we go. Right, so the no man's land one, when I first cross into that black barrier, it actually changes the warning state to 1, and I'm using that as the method to target doing the title bits. At the end of that, it then changes it to a warning state 2. Reason for doing that is because then when I cross into the system area bit, what I'm actually looking to do, hang on a minute, yeah, hang on a minute, something's gone wrong. Why has it gone wrong? Oh, that's why it's gone wrong. Right, I missed a step. Right, so the system area bit, this bit here, at the point that it detects you in that area, it looks to make sure that you've had the warning first, so that's where it's saying the warning state 2, and it switches to warning state 3. Warning state 3 is then used, wrong one, there we go. Warning state 3 is then used to target those commands and do the teleport and return you back to spawn, where it will then set you back to 0. Now, if you don't go through that full process, you won't get set back to 0. So back in the main section here, the reset bit basically looks for anybody in no PvP that's had a warning but has obviously returned back in, and then resets you back to 0. So that way, if you cross the border again, you'll get the warning again. Hopefully that will make sense, I think. So the long and short of it is we've ended up with what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 function files. In fairness, the sub-function calls I could actually put all into the one file and just have it as a linear single file. I might still do that, I haven't decided yet. At the moment I'm keeping them separate just because it makes things a little bit easier to basically to manage them and to work on things. I know, you know, the function change to no PvP, for example, I know is accessible directly to change a bit of code. I don't have to go rummaging through, you know, 120 odd lines of code or whatever to try and find the bit that I want. In case you were wondering, anything with hashes in a function file is ignored. So basically, if you've done any kind of programming or script language writing, you'll know that typically stuff like hashes is used as a escape character for that sort of stuff anyway. But if you don't, then now you do know. So anything with a hash is basically just a way for me to make notes to myself. Anything that starts without a hash is a command, comsa. So yeah, there we go. Basically, we have, it's a bit crude and a bit rough around the edges, but we do have a working detection system. So if I go, there we go, we're in PvP, we're in no PvP, we're back in PvP, we're in no PvP, we're in no man's land. We've been warned, we've ignored it, and we got sent back and told we smell bad. Because I'm not childish at all. Anyway, so yeah, all of that is now done with a single command block instead of 50 odd or whatever it was commands. Bits I've still got to do. I need to add in stuff for the donators. Like I said, I want to try and refine it. Maybe using if statements and tags to try and reduce how many operations actually get completely run. It seems, you know, pedantic, but once you've got 15 or 20 users on, it can make a big difference. Particularly, it can make a difference in terms of how many users we can actually support on the server at a time. So it's, much as I've got something that can go on and do the job, it's worth making the effort to try and refine it. Still got to decide whether I'm going to compile it all down into one single file or not. But yeah, we're there really. So I'm going to carry on working on that. We'll see if we can get the refinements done. I'll do another update on the refinement stuff, but as it stands, basically all that's left with this version of it is to update the coordinates, because obviously they're only set up for this little test area at the moment. That needs to be the actual world coordinates, or the map-wide coordinates. But yeah, that's basically ready to go. Couple of quick bits in the Discord chat. It was a little while ago. Question was asked whether or not these count as mods and plugins. Short answer is no. Go over it very briefly. I'm not sure if I covered it in a previous video or not, actually. Well, if I didn't, meh, whatever. If I did, whatever. Basically, I suppose you could kind of argue that it's sort of like a plugin, but it's not in the way that you guys are used to. Yeah, if you say modded or plugin, you think of, I don't know, Direwolf or whatever else. They're very, very different. They're actual code plugins. The function files within what we're working with only allow you to run commands and do things that are already within the game itself, i.e. existing stuff that's supported. Plugins and mods like Direwolf, they actually use their own code that's written specifically to kind of sideload into the game to make the game do things that it wasn't originally designed to do. We're not doing that. We're only working within the remit of what the game is actually allowed, or we're actually allowed to do within the game. It means we have to be a bit creative sometimes with things. You know, some of the plugins and stuff are actually really quite useful. Even simple things like being able to mute chat or whatever. For some reason, Mojang still won't give us that. Don't know why. And in case you were wondering, yes, I have actually posted messages to them several times, as has Morph, and I think if he has as well, actually. Pretty much we always get ignored. They really don't want to do it. But the plus side is with the new dimension option added to teleport, we can get creative with some of the things. So that's probably what my next video is actually gonna be. We're gonna be working on jail system. Jail system. Let's see. Probably be a 3 strikes and you're out type scenario. Haven't really worked out all the ins and outs of it, but yeah. There will be a muted jail. You'll have to wait for the video to see how. Some of you might already know, some of you might not. So come see the next one. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. you get notified when the next one comes. Hopefully won't be too long. Till then, thanks for coming, nice to see you, and ta-da.